Have you ever wondered what would happen if the award-winning XPS 13 and a Precision 5570 had a baby? Well, the engineers at Dell did, and the results were pretty incredible. So, quick disclaimer, I do work for Dell. I do say we throughout this video, but I want it to be clear, this is not an official Dell Blue video channel. This is my channel. It's something I'm putting together to bring you information on technology that, one, you may not know about, or two, want a little bit deeper dive into. So if I misstate something, that comes back to me. Now, let's get on with the show.
If you follow IDC data, you would have noticed a new category. That category was the 14-inch mobile workstation. So obviously people were wanting a 14-inch mobile workstation, something a little more powerful, but a little bit smaller. And if you also noticed in that data, Dell was nowhere to be found. So in the summer of 2022, we launched two mobile workstations. One was a 3000 series. Now, what we did with that 3000 series was we leveraged the Latitude 5000 series chassis, one of the best-selling laptops in the world, and turned it into a Precision. Upgraded some of the insides, easy peasy, done. We have a 14-inch mobile workstation. And if one was good, two would be better. So that left the 5000 series. Now, if you know about the 5000 series Precision, you know the 5570 and 5770 are leveraged off the XPS line. Now, let's just leverage the XPS 14 and call it a Precision. Unfortunately, there is no XPS 14. So the engineers at Dell were able to take and design this brand new system from the ground up. We knew it was going to look like an XPS so it could fit into that 5000 series, but we were able to upgrade the thermals, which gave us the opportunity to put a larger chip in and a larger graphics card. And what was born was the Precision 5470. The Precision 5470 is the world's thinnest and lightest 14-inch mobile workstation. With a 16:10 aspect ratio, processor up to i9, graphics card of an A1000, up to a QHD 500 nit low blue light Comfort View Plus display, top firing speakers, bottom firing subwoofers, HDIR camera with Windows Hello, Wi-Fi 6E, and a fingerprint reader on the power button. In this video, I'm going to be covering many aspects of the 5470, all the way from the packaging, the specs, the options. Then I'm going to discuss a couple of use cases, a couple you might not actually be thinking of why you might need the 5470. So let's go ahead and take it to the table. A couple of years ago, Dell announced some pretty hefty 2030 moonshot goals. Some of those moonshot goals were around sustainability, and that really shows up in the Precision 5000 series packaging. The box itself, fully recycled material, fully recyclable. The device comes in a nice non-woven fiber bag. On the inside, pretty minimalistic. Kind of reminds me of what Apple has been doing for a number of years now. Documentation itself, it's just really a QR code. You hit that QR code, it's going to take you to a website for all the information that you need. What you'll notice that is really missing from this box is all the plastic that each one of these components in the past would have been individually wrapped in. They are now wrapped in paper, again, fully recyclable. Also in the box is going to be a dongle. This is a USB Type A and HDMI dongle. I do recommend hitting this with a maybe some nail polish or a colored pen. That way, if you do need the dongle, and you do leave it in the conference room, you have a chance of getting it back. So really glad to see Dell has made the steps in the packaging and made the steps towards that 2030 moonshot goal. So right out of the bag, out of the box, the 5470 does feel very sturdy. This is CNC'd aluminum. It's not that stamped aluminum that you find in some other devices. It feels nice and sturdy. There's not much flex. I will admit, everybody says thin and light, thin and light, thin and light. Yes, it is thin. Yes, it is extremely light for a workstation. I will say, however, it might be a little heftier than you might think. I think I kind of compare it to a baby. You know, you see this little tiny baby, you pick it up and you go, wow, that thing's robust. And I think that's what this is. There's so much technology and so much power crammed into this thin little chassis that it might feel a little bit heavier than you're initially thinking. So the weight on this, it starts at 3.3 pounds. The touch version, I believe, starts at about 3.6 pounds. As we look at the D cover, also known as the bottom of the 5470, you're going to notice a couple key components when it comes to thermals. Not just this venting that is sucking in the cooled air with those two fans under there, but these feet. These feet are actually a little bit bigger than the feet on the 5570. What this is going to do is hold it up off of your work surface a little bit and really help that airflow in there. What we also have is size 6 Torx screws. And then here we do have your bottom firing subwoofers. So looking at the left side, moving from the back to the front of the device, we still have the wired headset port. We have 2 Thunderbolt ports. You can hook your dock up or power up to either one of these ports. Now, I do want to point out that this is just one channel of Thunderbolt sharing those 2 ports, so 40 gigs of throughput per side. As we move forward, you're going to see here, this is our smart card reader. It is the first 5000 series Precision that has a smart card reader. As we go to the back, it is a drop hinge. There are no ports on the back. On the right side, we do have 2 more Thunderbolt ports. Again, this is not on the same channel as the other Thunderbolt ports. This is its own individual channel, but 2 ports over that 40 gigs of throughput. We're also going to have an SD card reader and a lock slot. As we get around to the top, you're going to see 2 little holes right here. Those are actually the microphones. And when you're plugged in and charging, a little light right here is going to light up. Taking a look at the keyboard, the first thing you're going to notice is the big trackpad. It is a flat trackpad. There are no buttons included with it. Let me hold my cell phone up here to give you a little bit of perspective on the size of that thing. Good feel on both sides for clicking. Keys themselves do have a little bit of click. I'd like that. It makes it feel like you're actually typing, and you can tell that you're typing, and you can tell you're hitting the buttons. A couple millimeters of travel there. We do have the top firing speakers over here and over here. Fingerprint reader in the power button. It's not marked as a power button, but I think you'll figure that out. Underneath this click pad is also where you're going to find your contactless smart card reader. All in all, I like the keyboard. It's a great layout. It's a great feel. So what I have here is the entire 5000 series lineup. I have the 17-inch, the 15-inch, and the 14-inch. Just want to give you a front view of the size difference on all these devices. Let me see if I can give you one from the side and the front. There's our front view. Again, 17-inch, 15-inch, 14-inch, and now a quick one from the side here. One of the things I want you to notice, and this is one of the things I had mentioned earlier, the foot on this is a little bit taller, so we can get that air flowing through there. And I think what we're going to find is this 5470, spec'd out the same as this 5570, might perform a little bit better. Just looking at the Precision 5470, you can really tell where the DNA of an XPS comes into play from a design aspect. But what makes this a Precision? What makes this a workstation? One of those components is going to be the processor. Now what we have in here is an H-class processor. It is a full 45 watts. Those 45 watt processors are really reserved for a powerful machine, a workstation class device. Now we're going to offer it in 4 flavors. One is going to be an i5. It's going to be a 12 core. We're going to do 2 i7s. Those are going to be 14 cores. Then there's going to be an i9 offering. That's going to be a 14 core also, but it has a blazing fast turbo of up to 5 gigahertz. So kind of across the board, all 45 watts, great core counts, great speeds. I want to break in here because as I was going back and editing this video, I noticed something. I actually noticed a lot of things. But I kept saying 45 watts, 45 watts, 45 watts when it came to the processor. Why does 45 watts matter? What does 45 watts mean? You know, we'll probably do another video and a deep dive into the various processors, but I just want to clear it up real quick. Intel, for their mobile line, has 3 series of processors. One's a U class, one's a P class, and one is an H class. The more wattage you can throw at a processor, the more power that processor is going to deliver. So the U series processor is what is traditionally found in a business class laptop. That's going to be our Latitude line. Now there is a new class of processor called the P class processor. It is up to a 28 watt processor. We do have that one available in our entry-level 3000 series Precision. But that H-class 45 watt processor is what you're going to find in your 5000 series Precision and your 7000 series Precision. So when somebody is kind of comparing an i7 to an i7 to an i7, you could be talking about totally different processors. Just want to get that off my head. Back to the show. When it comes to RAM in the 5470, there are going to be 3 offerings. An 8 gig option, a 16 gig option, and a 32 gig option. This is all going to be DDR5 memory, and it's all going to be dual channel memory. That comes into play when we're talking about the integrated graphics in the 5470. But I do want to point out that this memory is going to be soldered down. One of the advantages of having soldered down memory, though, is we do get some faster speeds out of it. This is going to be 5200 megahertz. We're currently in our slotted DDR5 memory, we're getting 4800 megahertz. So when you're trying to decide what memory do I want, keep in mind whatever you order is the way it's going to stay. One of the biggest complaints IT managers get is my machine is running too slow. And the thought process is, at least on the end user, is let's throw more RAM at it. And sometimes, yeah, that is the solution. If you go into Task Manager, take a look to see where your RAM is pegging out. And oftentimes, yes, you don't have enough RAM in the machine. You'd be surprised at what applications are actually hogging up a ton of RAM. So what I want you to do, I do want you to go into Task Manager, take a look at the utilization, see what applications are really using all that RAM, and then plan accordingly. Remember, in the 5470, this RAM is soldered down, so how you order it today is how it's going to stay. Now, you're not just ordering this computer for the next year. You're going to be ordering this for years 2 and 3. And you want to make sure in those subsequent years that it's not going to be dragging behind. So plan accordingly and get the machine the way you think you need it now, but also the way you think you need it in the future. When it comes to the hard drives, we do have a number of offerings for you. We do it as low as a 256. I don't suspect many of you are going to be takers on that one. However, we do offer a 512. We offer a 1 terabyte, a 2 terabyte, and a 4 terabyte. These are all Gen 4. They're all Class 40 hard drives. If you need a self-encrypting hard drive, we're currently doing a Gen 3 512 Opal drive and a Gen 3 1 terabyte Opal drive. Pretty soon we will be releasing the Gen 4 version of those also. For the operating system out of the factory, we do have a couple options for you. Of course, Windows 11. Until the June timeframe, we can still do a Windows 10 out of the factory. It's technically a Windows 11 license that we've downgraded for you. We also have the option of Red Hat Linux and Ubuntu Linux. So as we open this up, there's a couple things that you're going to notice right off the bat. One is the amount of screen real estate that there actually is. What we're missing down here at the bottom, if you look at most laptops today, there's a big black bar down at the bottom. We sometimes call that the chin. That's gone. What we have is a 16 by 10 aspect ratio with extremely small bezels. This is kind of where some of that XPS DNA comes into play. Up at the top, we have a 720 HD camera. We have auto light sensors. We have the two small microphones that I had mentioned earlier up here also. As far as the display itself goes, we have two options. One is going to be a full HD 1920 by 1200 non-touch. The other is going to be a QHD 2560 by 1600 touch. They're both going to be 500 nits, so extremely bright. They're both going to be low blue light. The touch version of this one is going to support an active pen. Pretty excited about that, and I am going to touch on the active pen a little bit later in the video. So going back to that question of what makes a precision and what makes this a precision. We talked about that 45 watt processor. Now let's talk about the graphics. There are going to be two offerings. One is going to be integrated, the Intel Xe graphics. Now, in order for that Intel Xe graphics to run the way it needs to, we need dual channel memory, which, going back to the RAM that I was talking about, is dual channel in the 5470. The other offering is going to be the NVIDIA A1000. It's an RTX A1000, and it is currently, at time of release, the most powerful graphics card in a 14-inch mobile workstation. It's a 4 gig graphics card based on the Ampere chip. It has 2048 CUDA cores, 16 ray tracing cores, and 64 tensor cores. Now, if you're familiar with the consumer line of graphics cards, this is going to be a slightly slower performance than the consumer RTX 3050. Now, you might be saying, Steve, I don't run Esri. I don't do any Photoshop. I don't do any video work. I'm not an engineer. I'm not testing an algorithm. I'm not doing anything that is going to require a graphics card. Now, I'm here to tell you it really doesn't matter. I still think you might need one. And the example I like to use is when the world went into lockdown, the biggest complaint that I got from my family and some of my team members when we all went to Zoom was, my backgrounds don't work. My backgrounds are horrible. I'm disappearing. What can I do? My friend Daniel called me and he said, Steve, your background is horrible. Go into your system settings, offload Zoom over to your graphics card. And I was like, okay. I gave it a shot, and sure enough, I went into Task Manager. My processor that was frequently peaking out when I was on a Zoom call was now in a nice steady low utilization state because Teams was offloaded to my graphics card. I then went in and started looking at applications that could also be offloaded to the graphics card. So when I did that, the graphics card took over a lot of the heavy lifting, allowing my computer to do my every other day-to-day task, along with my 20 spreadsheets open, my call the balls, my forecasting spreadsheets, my Zoom calls, my team calls, my PowerPoints, everything ran a little bit better because I had that graphics card. So I think the 5470, you're going to like it because it has that graphics card and you will utilize that graphics card. When I was learning about thermals, a quote came to mind. I believe it was Karate Kid 3. A man can't breathe, man can't fight. And much in the same sense, if a computer can't breathe, that is, if you don't get enough airflow running through it to cool down everything on the inside, what's going to happen is performance is going to be hindered. The processor is going to have to be throttled back, the GPU throttled back, and it's just not going to perform the way you expect it to. So let's take a look at the thermals on the 5470 to see why they are some of the most advanced thermals in any laptop out there. The amount of research that goes into the thermals of keeping this thing cool is really kind of mind-blowing. It starts with the outside. We do have the vents here that I mentioned earlier. These are the intake vents where cool air is being sucked in. We then have the out vent, so hot air is being blown out of here. Another thing to kind of keep in mind is these feet. These feet are a little bit bigger than the ones on the 5570. Getting it up off of the desk a little bit more to allow for a little more air cooling to flow through there. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the back off of this so we can see the fans. Again, this is a Torx 6. I do recommend getting a magnet. Those screws are teeny tiny, so you don't want to lose those. So what we have here is two fans. We have large heat pipes. The hard drive right here is shielded. Some of the other materials that we have in here is graphite and gore. The graphite will help dissipate heat. The gore will help block heat in different areas also. One of the really cool things about these fans, they are dual opposite output. So what they are going to do is actually blow air into the system itself, while it's also blowing air out of the system to help keep it cool. The fan blades have really been redesigned. You can see the shape of these fan blades here. That makes it so we are able to make these fan housings a little bit smaller without creating turbulence in the system. You create turbulence, the air is not going to flow correctly. You want that air flowing properly, and we are able to do it by redesigning those fans. So let me see if I can get a closer look at these fan blades. There you go. See, they don't have that traditional fan blade shape that you're used to when you think of a fan. As we tilt it, you can see there is one of the outputs, so that is blowing cool air through the chassis, and then there is another output right there that is also blowing air out of the chassis. Let's go ahead and take a look at the battery while we're in here. Dell is only offering one size battery, and that is going to be a 4-cell 72 watt hour lithium ion. It does feature Express Charge Boost and Express Charge. The Express Charge Boost, kind of cool. Your battery dies, plug it in about 20 minutes you should be at a 35% charge. One of the other things to note is batteries are warranted for a year. They are considered a consumable part. Now, we do offer a long life cycle battery. This is going to include years 2 and 3 on that battery. I do recommend going that route. It's going to save you some headache and some heartache if that battery does start to go bad in years 2 or 3. As we come back over to my workspace, there's a couple things that you're going to notice. First off, I hate to paint. It's been like that since lockdown. I'll get to it eventually. The second thing that you're going to notice is I love screen real estate. So in the past, I was working with 3 screens, which was fantastic. I highly recommend it. This screen I would reserve for Zoom, or I would break down and would be able to look at a full-size single-page PDF. My middle screen, traditionally Excel, or maybe I would have some of my tabs open. I have, at the end of the day, 15 tabs open, no problem. My third screen was used for Teams. I have the main page of Teams here, and then 4 individual conversations broken down at the bottom. When I plugged the 5470 in, I was super excited because all 4 of my displays lit up. That included the screen of the 5470. What this allows me to do is, in Zoom presentations, which I live in most of the day, I can now present and write on this screen and really get my customers, the people I'm presenting to take a look at the information that I really want them to look at. A lot of our PowerPoints are pretty confusing with a ton of information. But with the touch in the 5470, I can now drill down. Let's say, all right, I'm talking about the 5470 here. 5470. It has an RTX A1000 graphics card. It has 64 tensor cores. Yeah, if we want to do the RTX A5000, that's going to be the 7770 or the 7670. Yeah, so it becomes a pretty powerful tool for your sellers. And the nice thing you don't have to worry about is lag. Your video quality is not going to suffer. Your audio quality is not going to suffer. Because we have that NVIDIA RTX A1000 card in there. So a fantastic device for someone who is not your traditional precision user, which might be a creator, a GIS user, someone running CAD, or maybe an engineer. This is now a perfect device for somebody that lives in Zoom, lives in PowerPoint, doing those presentations, but is still starting to get back out on the road and wants a thin, light, powerful device. Now, with the Active Pen, we do have two that we are recommending. The 7522W, which is a rechargeable pen. It's nice, no more batteries. The other is the 5122W. Want to make sure I got that right. It does have a quad A battery in there, 2 buttons, but great pens. So if you're still thinking, maybe I don't need a precision, I might use it every now and then, but I want you to take away this. Go to the grocery store, take a look around, see how many Suburbans and how many Ford F-150s are sitting in that parking lot. Those are being used as grocery getters. But on the weekend, that Ford F-150 might be down in the parking lot of Home Depot getting loaded up with some lumber, or that Suburban might be hauling half a soccer team. So you are going to use that power when you get a device like that. When you get the 5470 and start offloading some of those applications over to that graphics card, it is going to be used. That machine is going to run better. It's going to be a much better experience for you and your staff.
So this is going to wrap up what is my first ever YouTube video. I know the production value is maybe not what you're used to. This is definitely not my day job, but I am in the process of teaching myself video production and content creation, and this project has totally given me a newfound respect for those that produce content on their own. But I hope you found the information that I did pack into this video useful. Below, I'm going to leave the links to the spec sheets, the technical guidebooks, to the 5470, along with the spec sheets on some of the other devices that you saw in the video. If you're a commercial, a SLED, or a Fed customer, please reach out to your Dell AE, client specialist, or the person you work with in the partner community. If you thought the information was useful, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. This affects the algorithms and helps others looking for information on the 5470. And please subscribe so you can be notified when I do make more of these videos. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them down in the comments, or if there's anything client device related you would like me to dive into, please let me know.